waited till all the other episode slots were filled because I wanted to know a feel for like what kind of content we had. Were we leaning really comedic? Were we leaning really dramatic, really serious? And I thought I could come in and do maybe something that we hadn't seen before. So when we got to the other 7 episodes, sort of like in the script stage, I realized that we had a good blend of comedic and dramatic, and I started talking to Eric about that, and he's like, "Oh man, I wish someone had really done an episode like about like Homelander's first mission or like early on." I was like, "Then that's what I will do." So then I was just talking with Eric to make sure the canonicalness of it was correct, and kind of nerve-wracking writing a script for Eric Kripke in his universe, in his world, about his characters. And trying to get that right. So yeah, I was really happy when he was pleased with it. That was a great day. I was very happy that he enjoyed it.
Thanks.
How much leeway do they actually give you inside your body? What were you allowed to do, and how far can you go?
Well, again, Eric was like, go as far as you want. He kept on pushing us to go further. I mean, in terms of like gore and stuff like that, he was the biggest one. He was like, it needs more blood, it needs more organs, let's just go further. But in terms of content, again, it was pretty open. I mean, The Boys pushes those boundaries about as far as they can go. And Amazon is a great partner. They really never pulled us back. So we had kind of free reign. There was almost no rules. It was mostly about what can we actually produce in 10 minutes. You know, so what actually is produced. That was our one constraint. Was like we have to make it. We actually have to get it done in a reasonable time frame without anybody dying. So
I liked how you sort of filled in his backstory. What episode did you sort of use as a leaping board to figure out that he wanted to be good at first, and then he kind of got pushed into the other direction?
Well, that came out of 2 different things. One was just talking to Eric about the character and just sort of like, because obviously there's a Homelander of the comics. I've read all the comics. The Homelander of the show was slightly different. You know, it's his version of it, so it was just about talking to him. And then the other thing is just my belief that nobody's born evil. You know, you're built out of your environments and your experiences and how you're treated. And I thought that would be interesting to explore with Homelander. So even a character like that, but like if you were raised by Vought, how would you come out? You come out terrible, right? So it's about having a little fun exploring that.
Are there any characters from Diabolical that you'd like to see in the live action Boys?
Well, I mean, the jokey answer is I want to see Areola in the live action Boys. Aquafina's little, poop. Yeah, I mean, I would love it if the cross. I think it would be great if John and Sun Hee showed up in the back of some Vought episode, like she's escaped, even if it's just a reference somewhere, So that would be wonderful.
On the flip side, if you get a second season, are there other aspects of Vought or the universe of The Boys that you would like to incorporate into this side of things?
Sure. I think what I'd like to say, the promise of Diabolical, is that we don't repeat ourselves and we do something new every single season. It's a grab bag, right? So the whole thing is it shouldn't be the same as season 1. So I'd like to just go further, explore other aspects of Vought. I mean, there's international superheroes. I mean, obviously the show is focused mostly around North America, like New York. It'd be great to do some stories from other parts of the world, because I think Vought International has some pretty has a long reach in the world of The Boys. It'd be great to do some stuff like what's happening in Australia, what's happening in Asia, what's happening with Vought somewhere else. I'd love to do that.
So this is your episode is canon. Does any of this information, or if not yours, does any of the other episodes, does any of this information translate to season 3?
That'd be a good question. You should ask Eric. I think I'd like to think that they're symbiotic. Our season and their season, obviously they're the mothership show. We sort of, they lead, we follow. But I'd like to hope that some of this comes back and affects them in season 3 and season 4 going forwards.
Right on.
With an episode like John and Sun Hee, how important it is to show that Vought's reach is actually even hurting innocent people who have nothing want to do with heroes or villains.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's like this huge corporation. They make lunchboxes, they have restaurants, they have Whataburger, they make supplements, they deliver groceries. Like, the idea is that I think probably if you live in the world of The Boys, unless you're in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, Vought has some influence on your life in probably not the best way. Like, you probably don't want Vought groceries, you probably don't want Vought supplements, but you probably have no choice because they own the market. So, yeah, it's kind of a fun dystopia to explore in that sense.
Each episode looked a little bit different as far as the art. Were you able to have any feedback on how your episode looked?
Oh yeah, well yeah, because I was the showrunner of the series. I was absolutely part of like all the visual development all the way through. We're the directing team. Like we had 8 fantastic directors on all our episodes, and they're the ones who really brought each episode to life. But I'm lucky enough in my role to be part of like hiring those directors, and then also being there to see that whole process and sort of like guide it as much as I can, while not screwing it up either. We're just sort of like making sure that they all sort of work and follow the creative vision we want with every episode.
Were there any episodes that posed particularly interesting challenges in terms of bringing that concept to life, or in terms of collaboration process?
They all came along pretty smoothly. I think the biggest challenge for us was just that we had about 10 months to do it. So normally on a normal production schedule of any other type of show, you have a show in pre-production, a show in production, a show in an episode in pre-production, episode in production, episode in post-production, and you kind of finish one episode and then you can work on the next one. So like you put episodes away. Ours, because we had so little time, we're all doing all the stages all at the same time. So we had almost all of our episodes in pre-production at the same time, all of our episodes in production, and all of them in post at the same time. So it just turned out to be an excessive amount of work because we were trying to cram it into a very small timeline.
With all the people you got to work with, talent-wise, what went into picking what you guys actually used?
For writers or for a cast?
Both.
We tried to find the people who we thought would be best for the role. Honestly, it was a lot of sitting around brainstorming. We had an excellent casting director for our cast named Linda LaMontagne, who also casts Invincible with me and does a fantastic job. And it would just be conversations about like who would be great for this role, and we'd make lists and talk about it, and then we make offers. We go out and we try and find those people. But it's not willy-nilly. It just takes time and thinking about it. And for the writers, we went out to people whose work we had admired, whose creativity we admired, and who we thought would be interested in doing a short film set in the world of the boys, and we just started making calls. And it sort of helps when you have, Seth Rogen's making those calls too.
I mean, it doesn't help when you're friends with lots of people.
Yeah, exactly, right. So that opens a lot of doors for us. Yeah.
What do you think the animation medium brings to this superhero genre that live action may not quite be able to capture?
Scope, I think, is a big one. Obviously, Diabolical or Invincible, like to do either of those shows live action, the budget would have to be ridiculous. It would be too high to do on, even with budgets like you see on Game of Thrones and other big shows. I just feel like we would have to change the subject matter so much to fit Invincible into a TV show if it wasn't animated. That animation was really the only medium to use to tell that story and do it properly. So I think that's what it allows you to do is do a truer adaptation of certain materials than you could do if you had to do a live action.
Does the animation make a lot? Do you think it makes some of the violence that does happen in the series? It's very gory. I mean, of course, the live action, the boys push the gore.
Yeah.
Does it make it a lot easier to digest for the viewer? Do you think?
We're going to make this the last question.
Yeah, I think so. That's a really good question. I feel like if you did have the budget and you took a couple of Diabolical episodes or you took episodes of Invincible and you shot those live action, I think they might be unpalatable. Like you may not they would just be grotesque horror, but because we were able to do it animated, there's a little bit more detachment between them that lets you take it in a different way. I mean, this is probably a question for some psychologists to actually really dig into an answer, but I feel like you can watch something that's animated and you perceive it in a different way than if it's live action. And probably someone much smarter than me could answer that question on a better level, but that's my sort of read on it. So it lets us, push the limits a little further than you could in live action.
Actually,
Great. Yeah,